No seniors in here. Okay, so we are going to switch to our impact program. Today is Veterans Day, so we are going to welcome one of our alums, Katherine Dann. She's class of 2002, so she's going to speak to us about Veterans Day. So Laura Vitas and Allie Gant are going to do a quick introduction. So have fun.
All right, good morning, ladies. We are going to transition, as Ms. Atwell said, so I'm going to hand things over to Mrs. Gant to introduce our speaker for this morning.
Hey, y'all. Congratulations to the new signees. We're so excited for you, and pretty soon you all will be alums who we hope to welcome back to campus to talk to the current students about what you are doing. And that's exactly what we're doing today with Lieutenant Katherine Dann Ogden, class of 2002. She's a GPS grad who also happened to be May Queen. There's some cool stories there about this. She's a graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy and has a career as a naval aviator. She's coming to us from Katy, Texas, and she's here to talk to us about overcoming adversity in life, in her career, and she has a really great story to tell you. I'll let her tell you, including in July 2019, 5 days after giving birth to her fourth child, she has a stroke. She had a stroke and is doing amazing and here to tell us about all of these things. And so, Katherine, I'll let you take it away and I'll start the PowerPoint.
Okay, thanks, Ms. Gant. Can you hear me? Is that okay? All right. Good morning, students, faculty, and staff of GPS. Thank you for allowing me to speak to you today on Veterans Day. I'm supposed to talk to you about adversity, my career, and now all of that kind of ties into your theme for the year, carrying the torch. I promise to be short with my speech and leave time for questions and answers at the end. My name is Katherine Ogden. I'm 37 years old. I was Katherine Dann at GPS. I'm a 2002 graduate of GPS and was a varsity swimmer from 8th through 12th grade. I'm a 2006 graduate of the United States Naval Academy and earned a Bachelor of Science in Ocean Engineering. I was a naval helicopter pilot for 10 years. I lived in Japan for 3 years. I'm now in the Naval Reserves. I'm married to a Marine Corps officer. I have 4 children, and I'm a stroke survivor. The biggest points I want to get across to you today are everybody goes through adversity. The challenges you face today will prepare you for your adversity in the future. The second thing is, for Veterans Day, it's important to take away that most veterans don't want to be thanked for their service. They want to know that their sacrifice and service was worth it. They want to know that their sacrifice and service was not in vain. They want to know that it was worth it. It's up to us to be good citizens, to make their service worthwhile and carry their torch. We need to ensure their fire stays lit. I grew up in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and moved to Chattanooga in the middle of 6th grade, preparing to go to GPS in 7th grade. That in itself was a challenge. Not knowing anybody, the traditions of GPS, or what an all-girls school would look like. My biggest challenge at GPS my biggest challenges at GPS were training in the pool to beat Baylor and studying for my AP exams. By the way, we beat Baylor for the first time ever, my 10th grade year, February of 2000. The fall of my senior year, 9/11 happened and solidified my decision to join the military. But my dad wanted me to go to college, so the Naval Academy made sense. My next challenge was being rejected from the Naval Academy 3 times due to childhood asthma. I had to work with the swim coaches and the Department of Defense doctors to get a waiver to go. I guess you could say I was too stubborn to accept no for an answer. After GPS graduation was more adversity. Plebe summer at the Naval Academy is 6 weeks of boot camp style indoctrination designed to break everybody down to a common denominator. One of the midshipmen in charge, they're not called cadets, told me we were here to put warheads on foreheads. I thought I had made a mistake. I hadn't come with the desire to kill anyone, but it was after 9/11 and everyone was looking for revenge. While at the Naval Academy, I thought academics and swimming would be easier than they were, but I soon found out that I was surrounded by athletic and smart people. I struggled to keep up with being a varsity athlete and an engineering student at a school with no academic curve. Because every student has to do a sport, I switched to club rugby. I had never played rugby before. I wasn't used to running, ball sports, or being outside the pool, but I ended up forming lasting memories and friendships. Our motto was "Love the Legacy." Our coach not only pushed us hard physically, but encouraged us to make alumni ties and to understand where we had come from and where we were going. After graduation, I selected Navy pilot. We called them aviators. I moved to Pensacola, Florida, and hated flight school. We started in a 2-person turboprop trainer that looks like a World War II fighter. I struggled with the pace of training, the speed at which things happen in the airplane, the radio calls, everything. I was thinking of quitting. I wanted to quit so many times, but my instructor, Lieutenant Ian Lake, would not let me quit. He said, "You're my first female student. You can't quit or it'll make me look bad." He also said, "Just get to the next phase and see if you like it better." With his encouragement, I decided to see what the next phase looked like. Since the Navy is paying for you to go to flight school, they get to pick what you fly. For me, that was helicopters, and it was not any easier. For those who may not know, nobody is truly certain why helicopters fly. There are several overlapping theories, and when one theory ends, you pick up the next. When I finished training, I wanted to go to Hawaii with my girlfriends, but again, the Navy gave me orders to the East Coast to fly the SH-60 Bravo Seahawk. I trained in Jacksonville, Florida, and went to survival school in California. They call it SERE school. Survive, evade, resist, escape. Survival school is as bad as it sounds. While most of what happens is classified, all aviators must go through this course in case they get shot down behind enemy lines. After all that, I got to my first active squadron in Atsugi, Japan. I was living alone, one of the only females in the squadron, overseas for the first time in a foreign country. I assumed it was going to be terrible. Fast forward 3 years, and I didn't want to leave. While stationed in Japan, I deployed on 2 destroyers and 1 aircraft carrier. I visited 8 countries, made lifelong friends, ate amazing food, pet a tiger, and had so many adventures. 2 years ago, my memories of Japan inspired me to help lead a winter trip to Japan as a chaperone. I still can't believe anyone trusted me with their kids. I kept looking around like, where are the adults in charge? But it was great to share that experience with future GPS alumni. It was a way for me to pass the torch. I left Japan engaged to a Marine Corps pilot I'd been dating long distance. Long distance dating is a whole different kind of adversity, but we stayed busy with our military duties. In a twist of fate, I was ordered back to Pensacola. Ironically, I was to be a flight instructor. It was my turn to pass the torch on to the next generation of naval aviators. I got married, had 2 kids on active duty, all while managing my role as a flight instructor. My husband left active duty and went to work his dream job at Southwest Airlines, and I transferred to the reserves and had 2 more kids. While I thought the reserves would be boring, I ended up in a fascinating job as a naval historian. I worked with hundreds of retired officers, students, and professional historians, cataloging and teaching the history of naval aviation. In retrospect, you could say a large portion of my career involved carrying the torch and loving the legacy of both GPS and naval aviation. The struggles I endured at GPS, the Naval Academy, flying in the Navy, and being a mom helped lay the foundation for the greatest struggle I've faced in my life, a brain hemorrhage and stroke following the birth of my 4th child. 5 days after an otherwise healthy pregnancy and birth, I suffered a freak hemorrhagic stroke, the worst kind of stroke you can have. Most people die from them. While I can't remember the details, I managed to call 911 in the middle of the night, and they performed emergency surgery to save my life. I was in a medically induced coma for 2.5 weeks. I spent another 6 weeks between ICU and inpatient rehab. I came home a year ago and have been doing aggressive physical therapy 5 days a week. I don't want to compare my adversity to others. Everyone has problems. I've had classmates die and have met veterans and civilians who've suffered worse than I have, including veterans who have been in the Hanoi Hilton during Vietnam as prisoners of war. Some of them wish they could carry their torch and share their stories, teach their lessons learned, but they cannot. So it's up to those of us who are still here to carry their torch for them and share their stories, remember their legacy, and make their service worthwhile. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for sharing your story. And it's just so very neat. We would love for you all to ask questions in the chat, or that's probably the best way to do it. I'm sure that you all have a lot. Thank you so much for your service.
Thank you.
On Veterans Day. Thank you for your service. Katherine is what I'm looking at the comments.
Thanks.
I want you to tell a quick little story about something special that happened on May Day for you when you were May Queen, if you don't mind sharing that.
Yeah, sure. So Mr. Tucker was the headmaster at the time, and his daughter was actually in our class. Taylor graduated with us, and they sent, during one of the May Day practices or rehearsals, they sent me away to do a mock interview, but I didn't know it was a mock interview. And so Mr. Tucker could practice with my classmates a salute. So when they got up, they said, during May Day, you'll get up halfway through and go somebody will be on the roof of the upper school and take a picture of you. So halfway through, Mr. Tucker gets up and goes, stands in front of me. I thought I'd done something wrong. So he goes and gets in front of me, and he leads the whole class in a salute to me, which was really cool because I just found out I got into the Naval Academy. So that was pretty cool. Yeah.
So
The whole time I thought I'd done something wrong, because that never happens during May Day, where the headmaster gets up and comes in front of you. I was like, oh, I messed up. Yeah, so that was
We've got
cool.
some questions. I love that. Thank you for sharing. Anna Kate Stefanoff wants to know, what was it like being the only woman in your training group?
Oh, so it was, I grew up with 3 younger brothers, but it was definitely different being at GPS, an all-girls school. But then when I went to the academy, it was only 15% girls at the time. So that wasn't too, I don't think it was too different, because for me, I just looked at everybody the same. And I think that was a lot for GPS, because we didn't have boys. So you just raised your hand and everybody was the same. So I really didn't see that as any different. I think that's what helped a lot. And that's what helped me at the academy, you know, being not very many girls at the academy, and then in flight school and at my first squadron. I just didn't see it as any different, because at being at GPS, you always, you know, have the floor and you can talk and raise your hand. So I think that helped a lot. I just didn't see it as any different.
Very cool. Laurel Zabrowski says, my 6th grade advisees think you're awesome.
Thank you.
Miss Clardy wants to know, actually this is Hallie in 6th grade. The advisors are typing for their advisees. Okay. What was it like being the only female member in the Navy? So
yeah,
I think,
I was probably like 10 to 15% at the time. And so I felt like I couldn't quit, because I felt like I had so much to prove for the women that came after us. So that was like always in my mind, was just being, a good leader and a good example. I felt like I couldn't mess up because I was, paving a path for those that would come after me. But I think GPS, it just, again, at GPS, you don't see any different. You're just always like the first to raise your hand because you're around girls all the time. So I think that helped. I just didn't see it as any different,
Yes. Tracy Durham says, Catherine, I just want to say hi. What a powerful story.
Hi, Miss Durham. Yeah, she was my AP biology teacher. So that was one of the AP exams. I was like nervous taking that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I did fine, Yeah.
An eighth grade student asks, how long did you have to go to school before being able to fly by yourself?
Oh, so 4 years of college, and then flight school took about a year and a half to 2, depending on what you fly. So I started flight school in the February of 2006, and I earned my wings in December of 2008. So 2 full years. Oh, for soloing an aircraft, or by myself. So I think like maybe 12 flights, and then they let you go fly, which I didn't feel like I was prepared after 12 flights with an instructor. Yeah. And then they let you go fly by yourself. Yeah.
That's a lot bigger a deal than getting your driver's license and driving off.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you remember, like, how long was your first solo flight? Do you remember what you?
About an hour and a half. Gosh. Yeah. So yeah, that was the other thing, is like, I didn't know what to do. So I just went sightseeing, They just tell you to go out and fly. You have to land at a different airfield a few times. But yeah, the whole time I was just looking around, like, who's going to save me if something happens? I was like, oh, me. Yeah. That was tough.
Debbie Glasscock says, I remember that salute. It was amazing.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, she was one of my art teachers. And she went to Japan, I think, a little bit. So I talked to her a lot about that before the winter trip. Yeah. Yeah, every time I come back to GPS, I always see and talk to all the teachers and faculty. It's great. You're going to have those connections forever.
Well, they love you and miss you. I just got a text from Catherine Betts saying, please tell her I love her and miss her.
I miss Betts. I used to go to her office all the time. We would just go in there. All my classmates, we would just go in there and vent, or just take a break from school and from everything. Yeah, I still have all those relationships with all of them.
Nyla Blue wants to know, did you get treated differently during flight school by your classmates because you were a girl, good or bad?
No, not because I was a girl. They all judge you on how you are as a pilot. So I was struggling in flight school at the beginning. So I think I was judged more about that than being a female. It was more about how do you perform. So that was pretty good. They didn't see me as female or male. They just saw how you performed. Are you a good pilot? Are you not a good pilot? And they treated you like that.
Scout Chapin wants to know, did you know that you wanted to be in the military before September 11th? And what made you want to be in that career?
Well, it's a funny story. So my dad told, so I have 3 younger brothers. So the 4 kids, he was like, all right, we pay for GPS in Macaulay. Y'all find your own way to college, but he was like, he told me, I don't think swimming is going to be it, which is so crazy to see the signing day. I admire all those athletes. But my dad was like, if you swim in college, that's your job, is swimming. And so he said, find your own way. But he swam in college. So he just said, I don't recommend doing that because you don't love it. And there's, he's like, only swim in college if you really, really love it. And that's what you want to do. And so I think at the time, G.I. Jane had just come out, the movie with Demi Moore. So I thought I could be like the first female SEAL and like her. And so I think I just liked the challenge and kind of wanted to go to the Naval Academy and do that. But I don't think I wanted to swim for the rest of my life. So I knew I had to get it paid for because my dad said he wasn't paying for college. And then, all the schools that I wanted to go to, I wasn't good enough to swim at those schools. So I think that's why one of my brothers and I, we both went to the Naval Academy. Yeah.
Very good. Gloria Eiselstein, I think we just answered that same question. Mr. Noel, thank you for your service and for sharing your story. You are quite an impressive woman and a nice role model for all of these girls. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ella Peterson wants to know what your favorite GPS tradition is.
Well, some of them have gone away. Like we used to have color line. So based on what color uniform you wore that day, you could be the line leader. You know, everybody, it was whoever's birthday it was the line leader, and then they picked the order of the color. So you lined up in your color, and then you walked in a line from the middle school, which isn't there anymore. It's now the math building. And we would walk all the way to lunch as 7th graders. And the 8th graders would already be sitting there eating. So I think just the color line was kind of my favorite because I loved lunchtime. I like eating. I like being with my friends during lunch. Yeah. So I think just getting excited about the color line, and if I had the right color uniform, where I would be in that line. But I don't think they have color line anymore. No.
I don't think so. Someone can tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't think so. Kim LaFew says, you competed in the Ironman. What was that experience like with your GPS classmates?
Oh, so we started training together, which was nice. And then I found out I was pregnant with my second. So I had to wait till the next year to do it. But I came to watch everybody run it the year that I couldn't do it, which was great. I just love having those connections and like, you know, training together and doing something together afterwards. And we all got together that weekend and ate because we love eating. So we ate together and celebrated with our old swim coach, Coach Woods. And that was just great to like, have an excuse to eat, get together, hang out. But yeah, so I actually did the year after, but it was really cool watching everyone get together and do something together. Yeah. Have an excuse to come back to Chattanooga.
Miss Mann wants to know, can you discuss the process of applying to the Naval Academy? What did you do to prepare to be competitive for a nomination?
Yeah, so it's like a lot of other colleges. You get the application, and part of that is writing some kind of essay. Then you have to get a nomination from either a senator or a state representative and go do interviews with them. So the hardest part was filling out the application is really long. Like they want to know everything that you've done. So I thought I was being honest by saying I had childhood asthma, and that just created another big problem, like where I had to prove that I was asymptomatic, I could still perform even with my childhood asthma. So I recommend always being honest no matter what, because they couldn't take that away from me. So always be honest. And you have to meet with a blue and gold officer in your state, in your city, and they do an interview. So it was a lot of interviews, which I didn't really have practice with. So that was the biggest thing for me to prepare, is how to do an interview and talk back and forth. So they give you some questions to think about. So just preparing and like talking to others and having others ask me those questions and having answers already thought up. I think that was the biggest thing that I had to prepare for, because really we didn't do a lot of practice. I had a lot of practice with writing essays, but not a lot of practice doing like, you know, off the cuff interviews. So that was the hardest thing for me. And I really had to prepare answers for that.
Very good. I have never seen so many questions for a speaker in my life. We have like 30 more. We're not going to get to all of them, but I'll get through some here. Scarlett wants to know, where did you meet your husband, and was it hard to have children with the job you had?
So we met during flight school in Virginia Beach. And then I went to Japan and he went to Iraq and Afghanistan. So our whole relationship was long distance. So lots of emails, lots of handwritten letters, lots of Skype. When we came back for our tours as instructors, it wasn't hard to have kids, but we had to wait. We couldn't have them on our first tour. We had to wait till we were in a place where we could like take the time off to have kids while still instructing. Like I still instructed while I was pregnant. So I kept flying through my pregnancies and doing that. But yeah, it does take a little bit of time to sit down and think and plan and figure out what you're gonna do. But everybody was really supportive of us, which was great.
That's amazing. Annie Thrash, did your service change how you view the idea of war and the military on a global scale?
Yes. So at first, because I grew up like I remember a little bit of the Gulf War when I was really little watching on TV, but 9/11, was a game changer. And then when I went to the Naval Academy, I didn't think that we were going to be in war for so long. So I remember watching like Saddam Hussein, the statue being torn down. I remember when we killed Saddam Hussein, we captured Osama bin Laden. All that happened while I was in the military, so that was really exciting. But at the same time, I didn't think I was going to do that. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to be in the military to be a leader and to affect change without going to war. But I started to realize there's a time and place for war. There's a time and place for democracy, diplomacy, and I was very proud to be able to serve on the United States where we were trying to help others, and not always be at war. But yeah, war is a tough thing. I saw lots of my classmates. One of my classmates was blinded, one of them permanently disabled because he got shot in the leg. So to me, war was nothing but bad. I didn't want anyone to have to go through war and have to struggle through that. But then I look at some veterans that I met that were prisoners of war in Vietnam, and I realized we need to still do what we need to do, hopefully not through fighting, but we still have to protect those freedoms and do their service honor,
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
I don't see it differently. I still don't want it, but I can see the benefit of it, and what we're doing.
Yes. Yes. Meg Brock says, what was your favorite part of being in the Naval Academy?
Probably Halloween. Halloween, everybody dressed up and we just had fun. So I made a lot of good friendships. It was hard. The academics were hard. The sports were hard. The service that was required after was hard. But I think you get a really, close friendships, because people were telling me you'll never have as good of friends as you have at the academy. And I said, well, they don't know GPS and my classmates at GPS, but they were right. Lifelong friends. I mean, and now I can go anywhere in the world and know somebody from the Naval Academy and see them everywhere. Even in Houston, so many of my classmates are back here. And so getting to see them is really cool.
Keith Sanders says hello.
Oh, hi, Mr. Sanders.
Laurel Zaropsky says, how did GPS prepare you for academics in the Navy?
Yeah, so I thought it would be a little bit easier because I was I'm very prepared, but there's just so much at the Naval Academy. There's so many engineering courses and math courses. So that was just a lot. And you have your academics, you have to drill, you have your athletics. I mean, there's just so much that you do at the Naval Academy. It's just your day is filled. So you can't just focus on your studies. So I think that's what was hard for me. GPS prepared me really well to study, but there's nothing that can prepare you for everything else that you have to deal with there. So that was tough. But flight school I felt was really easy because I felt GPS helped prepare me how to organize my thoughts and how to prepare my time. So I was really good about, studying for this amount of time and then this amount of time for this. So flight school was actually pretty easy because of the study habits I think I learned at GPS.
Very good. I'm going to ask you a couple more questions, then I've got some kind of greetings for you. For some people, okay. I'll give you. Mary Madeline in 6th grade, she wants to know what the scariest experience you had was.
Probably coming back to land after a 3-hour flight, landing on the back of the boat, because the boat is rocking back and forth and pitching up and down, and trying to land a relatively small helicopter on the back of a ship at night. I had just done a mission where I was in the left seat, so I was kind of disoriented. So I had, I guess looking back, I had vertigo, but I didn't know it. So we were trying to land on a ship. The ship wasn't lit right. They didn't have all the right lights, so it was really dark. We had been flying for a while. We were tired, and we had to keep waving off, which means you go into land, you don't have it, so you have to fly and try again. So we went around and around probably 4 or 5 times trying to land as I'm watching my gas tick down, and wondering like, what am I going to do? When am I going to, call it? So that was pretty scary, I think, just at night, being out there trying to land a helicopter on the back of the boat and when it's
Wow.
really dark.
Cheryl Chris says, hello from all the Walker clan. We're so proud of you. Beth Gaffney says, Katherine, Dann, you have made us so proud for so long. We prayed for you too during that terrible stroke almost over a year ago. The swimmer that you are, the Naval Academy, knowing your sweet parents, you are our role model and have been for years. Tell us what your days are like now and where you live. She's in Texas. How are the kids? Is it difficult time in recovery? Thank you so much for who you are and your story.
Hi, thank y'all. Thank you so much. Yeah, Dr. Walker and Mrs. Walker, their kids. I've been like, so Whit and I hit one of his sons, his middle son. We graduated in 2002 together, and Caroline's just been a great friend since then. So every day I go to physical therapy for an hour, and that's where, like, I didn't know this at the time, but physical therapy is all like bottom half, so learning to walk. So I go for an hour a day to do walking. And now I can get around, like I don't need my wheelchair, which is pretty incredible. So that's, my therapist has been working really hard. I have so much like respect for the therapist now. And I just got approved for a robotic arm. So I'm gonna get that next week. And so hopefully, because my whole left side was affected. So I can't really, I had to relearn how to walk, how to swallow, how to eat, how to talk. My arm is still not very useful. So, but hopefully with the robotic arm, I'll get that back. But yeah, we wake up around 6:30, getting the kids ready, because my oldest, the 6-year-old, he goes to first grade. So we get him ready, put him on the bus. And then my 2 middle daughters, they go to preschool. So getting them ready, it's just like typical, like I just can't do everything that I used to do. So my husband has become like the mom and the dad. So getting them dressed, ready, eat, lunch is packed, everything. Then I'll go to therapy and our nanny comes and our nanny watches, the baby and helps like drive them to their activities and stuff. But it's kind of been a blessing in disguise with COVID, because I don't feel like I'm missing as much with COVID happening. So I'm just like, everyone's struggling right now with COVID. So I feel like I'm just at home when I'm not at therapy, either working out on the treadmill at home or trying to like hang out with my kids. I read to them out loud to practice speech. So they're not really that different. More people are not doing much with COVID.
Yeah.
So I don't feel like I'm missing too much.
There's less FOMO for sure.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to read you a couple more little comments and then I'll leave you with one last question from a student. Jordan McCarter says, Katherine, from a fellow alum and the civics teacher in middle school, I hope to be teaching kids to be good citizens so that your service was indeed not in vain. Bryant Haynes says, hi, Katherine. It's great to see you again. I too remember your May Day salute.
Hi, Mr. Haynes.
And Keith Sanders says, hello. Sonia Steele, Katherine, you're amazing. Go team Katherine. Lisa Shanahan says, we're so proud of you. You're a rock star. And then Alice Harris gives you a YGG. You're a true bruiser through and through. She's amazed at all you've done in your short 37 years and the impact you continue to make. And I'd like to close, if you're okay with that, with a question from Madison Sabin in 7th grade. When you were going through hard times, how did you get the courage to persevere?
Yeah, I think, well, like I said, like I had classmates who have definitely been through worse than I have. Like one of the guys that I swam with, Brad, he got hit by an IED over in Afghanistan. And then like a year to the day later, was able to swim in the Paralympics. I mean, he was blinded by the IED, but then he broke all these records in London at the Paralympics, swimming as a blind swimmer. And then he competed in Rio. He didn't get to compete this year, obviously, but, so things like that. And then I have another classmate who's permanently in a wheelchair because he got shot in the back. So he's permanently disabled, but he's still doing things, he's with his service. I mean, he's creating all these like catheters for people. So I just look to them and I look at like the POWs that I've met and I'm just like, wow, You know, I don't think I could have survived something like that. But this is my adversity. This is my challenge. You know, this is my cross to bear, kind of. And I look at the other people that have gone through other things that are hard too, and I see how they're still providing like inspiration and service. So I just feel like if they can do it, I can do it, you know. And I look at the things that have happened at GPS or at the Naval Academy or flight school. It's like I've gone through tough things. This is just another tough thing, you know. And I'll just attack it and I'll get through it. And then afterwards, you know, I can talk about it or share my story or help inspire others, you know. So I think that's what helps me get through. I don't know why this happened. None of the doctors know why it happened. All the tests have shown, you know, this wasn't supposed to happen, but it did, you know. I don't know why, but hopefully, you know, it'll inspire others or help others get through their adversity too.
Well, you're truly an inspiration, and we appreciate your service as an alum, as a friend to all of us, and as a veteran. You're just such an inspiration, and we so appreciate you getting up and sharing with us today. And there were way more questions than I was able to get to, so you definitely engaged the girls, and we just thank you so much.
Thank you for this opportunity. I appreciate it.
And thanks to your husband too. I know he's
Thank
been
you.
our technical support.
Thank you. Thank you. You'll have a good day.